Well, hello there, YouTubes. This is Allie Renee. I use she, her, hers pronouns. Welcome to my copious spare time channel. I was going to do some fabric dyeing today, so I thought I could record this while I'm doing it. So I am here in the dye craft room at my university. And just in case there are Republican congressmen watching this is on my lunch break, and I replace the materials that I use. So I'm not stealing from the great state of Wisconsin. Trust me. So anyway, I'm gonna dye some fabric. So I first found all this linen that I brought from home that I had purchased, and I cut it down into either half yards or fat fat quarters, I guess, fat halves, maybe, I don't know. And serge the edges. I've got three different types. I have the linen with the burbs on it that I mentioned in my previous episode. But I was thinking about doing some stuff on, do some inception bird cross stitch where I would stitch a bird on a bird material. But I thought I might dip it, see what happens when I dip it, so it's less contrast between the background tan and the bird rusty color, and see if that helps it, just see what happens to it. I thought I'd try that. I have some white linen and then some natural colored linen. Both of these feel a lot stiffer and closer to what when I buy like the linen from the embroidery or the needlework store, feel similar to that. This feels much more like fashion fabric. So, but that might be okay for smaller projects. We'll see. I'm experiment here. So I'm going to see what happens. I have a couple. I want to do at least the white. I want to try out some um, gray on it on the bottom, or something, maybe even a gray blue, to try to use it for my Scandi Quakers in Scandinavia thing that I want to start next weekend during Sit in Mai. So I'm going to do that. I might try to paint it, be really specific about it. And then I want to maybe try doing something like a purple for my what is the project? Oh, the zodiac thing I want to start from Tiny Modernist. And then I might do one more because there's a there's another Mirabilia that has been calling to me, and I fear what's about to happen with my stitching. It's about to go crazy pants into fancy lady stuff. So we'll see what happens, but I will update you in a second. So the first thing I'm gonna do is rinse this fabric, because you don't know what kind of stuff they have put on it, both at the mill and for putting it on a bolt in a fabric store. So you want to wash it, or if it has dirt on it, that sort of thing. I could put it in the washing machine too, but I kind of want to minimize the amount of like heat it gets, because I don't want it to shrink too much, because it's already, sometimes when you shrink it, then it becomes like harder to stitch. And one of these I want to maybe do a Mirabilia on, which means if it shrinks, then I won't be able to get all those little beads in. So I kind of want to be careful about that. But I want to get it wet, so that also getting the fabric wet helps the dye penetrate it a little better and more evenly. Although sometimes when you're wanting to model your stuff, doing it dry could be helpful, because then it will be uneven in the way it absorbs the dye. So that could work in your favor. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and rinse these. So I'm going to walk around a little bit. It's probably noisy in here. Right now, I'm filling the dye pot with water. Um, you want to make sure they're a little less noisy. You want to make sure that you're always dyeing fabric with things that aren't for food. So um, picking up stuff at a thrift store and then labeling it for your dye stuff is a really good best practice, because you don't want to be eating anything out of the stuff that you use for crafty stuff, right? Same thing like if you're dyeing and then using your microwave to set the yarn or the fabric, you don't want to be doing that in the same microwave that you cook food in. So get yourself a second microwave. Uh, anyway, but I thought what I could do is show you, I recorded a video earlier that was showing what a professional dye room looks like, but I don't know if it's going to work. So I'll just do it again. So I'm sorry if this makes you a little dizzy, but here is our craft room. I wanted to show you this in particular is a soup vat, which we use as a dye vat. So then this can hold a ton of water so that we can dye large things of fabric. And then we throw it in a washing machine or rinse it in the sink. And then this little tubey thing here will, I believe it steams it so that you can set it. It's like you can put a tube of fabric in there. I haven't used it yet. It's the fanciest one I've ever been in. We have like different hoods to keep you safe. There's our flammables cabinet, and then there's all the dye, which are in those little blue containers. It's all grit, and then there's some protein dyes in the drawer, like Protein dyes, and all the activators and the synthropol and all that kind of thing. But yeah, and many more supplies in here. It's a very nice dye studio and craft room. Hello again. So I've got 3 pots on the burner with just water in it that I'm going to heat up so that it will dissolve the dye when I put it in. And then I'm going to use these to take the dye and then pour it over fabric. So I don't need to have enough water in the pot to stick the fabric in. Does that make sense? I'm going to pour it onto the fabric. So I just want enough water that will dissolve the dye. Okay, sorry that one light keeps shining right directly in your face. There's not much I can do about it. I'm hoping you can hear me. So I've taken a piece of linen and hung it up on a hanger with some clothespins. I've warmed up some petal gray dye. I'm going to try to pour some of this in here and then ombre this a little bit. And then I've got like a cheap chipboard paintbrush that I'm going to try to paint some stuff on here a little bit too and see what happens. Because the Quakers in Scandinavia is a square. So I'm just going to see what happens down here. And then if I hate it, I can always just shift the whole thing up so I haven't totally trashed the linen. But we'll see. So I've got the dye in this one of these. These are just like dish pan things you buy at the store. We use these a lot. So I'm just going to dip. This is wet. So I'm just dipping it in, letting it sit. It's taking a little bit of color. I do the whole thing. I like that. Next experiment, I'm going to take some of the Burb fabric and put it in some rose pink dye and see what happens. The result of the rose pink, which I'm not mad about. I kind of like it because it's kind of making the yellowness of the fabric pick up some more peachy tone. And then, yeah, so I might let this dry and then just keep this one as is and then do another one in brown. So we'll see. I'm digging what the rose pink did. So I'm thinking to that yellowish Burb fabric. So I want to see how it works on the natural. Now, like if for real, if you're not just, you want to like test this on smaller samples, I just don't care. So I figure I can salvage whatever I do, but a smarter way would be to do tiny little test strips and then go dye the whole piece. But when have I said I was smart? Okay, you can't really see it on camera, but now this has got definitely a grayer tone down here. So I'm going to do this once more with a little bit more dye to ombre it a little bit. And so in these things, I've used hot water to dissolve the powder dye. If you use the liquid dye, you don't have to be as careful about making it sure it's hot because you won't get that. Because what happens if you have like a undissolved crystal, whatever the dye chemicals are, it will like create a hot spot, often in a different color, because it's like color mixing a bunch of different dyes together, basically. So then you might end up with like a big hot spot of red on your fabric that you didn't intend. This makes for very cool effects when you do use powdered dye, when you want to do things like ice dyeing or snow dyeing, which I cannot wait to do this winter, because it will kind of create like odd sunbursts of color in interesting ways. Yeah, so I'm going to start to paint this and ombre it some more. So, lest you think that I'm really good at this, I just want to show you that even though I tried to avoid this, I still have hot spots on here. Even, yeah, but actually, I like the way it looks. We're just gonna go with it. Now I'm experimenting by taking fabric and just kind of crumpling it up in a bin and then spooning a bit of dye on top of it to try kind of make some starbursts and weird, like kind of uniform effect is what I'm trying to go with this pink and gray and the purple. We'll see what happens. Hoping it'll be subtle, but we'll see. She says. So I don't know if you can see that. We'll see. I'll rinse it out and see what happens. It's wet, but I think it turned out pretty good. I'm excited about it. It'll be fun for something pretty. It could be a good fairy fabric. Yeah, so I'm gonna put this in cold water with some dye fixative and let it soak for a little bit. So yeah. Here's the purple. You see what I mean about the hot spots where there's a couple like chunky bits of dye? It's actually pretty consistent all over. So I'm actually gonna try out another experiment to kind of give it, I was originally wanting to do a kind of a galaxy thing with this, so maybe it'll work out in my favor. Okay, so I have taken what was left of the rose pink dye and poured a little midnight blue, I think it is in there, just a tiny bit to make it really blue. And then before it had fully time to dissolve, I have taken just a spoon that we use for dye and spooned a little bit over the purple that is still in the bin, like drizzled it on, right? You can see the spots of blue on there now. I'm going to do the same thing with this last piece of natural linen that I'm going to try today and do some blue on it and maybe some brown. We'll see. One thing I should have said, safety-wise, I'm wearing gloves. I should be wearing a mask, and so make sure you're wearing a mask. I'm also standing right in front of a giant hood, which is the noise that you're hearing, that is sucking all the bad stuff right up in there. So, which is why I'm being a little less safe than I should be, because I'm relying on technology to keep me from breathing in harmful particles. Don't do what I do. Okay, here it is with brown and purple and blue. I'm going to go rinse it out and see what it looks like. It's so good. I love it so much. Okay, here's the purple one after adding some blue, which I think works. I feel like it still needs one more color, so I might add a little brown to this, or maybe I should do a black. Maybe. So here's the bird fabric after dipping it in some dark brown. I think it's a little better. I might do it one more time and see, give it a little less contrast. I think it worked. This is pretty good. I think it's really reduced the kind of contrast between the bird and the background, and you can still see them, but it's not like in your face. It looks more like texture on here. But then I think when you get up close, then I get that sweet, sweet bird on bird inception action. So I'm going to throw this in the dye fixative. So instead of putting black on this, I'm going to use up the brown dye that I have and pour it into the blue dye and sort of make black and then use that on here. I think that will work pretty well. So I'm going to try that. Well, I think it looks pretty good. I don't know if it's going to work for that Zodiac, but I'm sure it'll be great for something Halloween related. But we'll see. I'll look at it, Flosstube or whatever on it. But who knows? Maybe I'll try something else with the purple. The white and the just purple, it's really pretty, but I think I want to add some teal and some other colors to it. Well, hi, I'm done with my dye experiments. I have rinsed everything thoroughly and then soaked it in cold water and Dharma Company dye fixative for at least 10 minutes, and then rinsed it out again. And then I threw it in a washing machine that is one that we use for dye stuff, so we don't have to worry about transferring stuff to non-dyed fabrics, and put it on a spin cycle, so it spins out all the excess water, and then I throw it in the dryer on low, hoping the heat will set it a little bit, and also just to get some of the moisture out. I'll probably take it out before it's completely dry so I can iron it. Yeah, and then I will show you the results probably at home because I need to get out of here.